If your muscles start twitching after a workout, or your legs feel like jelly on the stairs, you're not alone. The big question is whether it's a normal worked hard signal, or a sign you pushed past what your body could recover from. Most of the time, it's a mix of fatigue in the muscle fibers, temporary nerve overexcitability, and a few basic chemistry shifts from sweating and breathing harder. But the details matter, because the fix depends on the cause. In this breakdown, you'll learn what's happening inside the muscle and the nerve that controls it. You'll also learn why the same workout can feel fine one day and shaky the next. And we'll cover the most common triggers: intensity spikes, dehydration, electrolytes, low fuel, heat, and poor recovery. Finally, we'll go over simple ways to reduce the twitching and regain steadier legs, plus the red flags that deserve medical attention. Moving to slide 2. First, let's separate two sensations that people lump together. Twitching is usually small, involuntary contractions, like tiny pulses under the skin. It can happen in calves, quads, feet, or even arms after lifting. Jelly legs is different. That's the feeling that your legs can't produce stable force, especially when you stand up, walk downhill, or go downstairs. Twitching can happen even when you still feel strong. Jelly legs usually means your muscles are temporarily struggling to coordinate force, or they're simply too fatigued to meet the demand. Both can show up after hard intervals, long runs, heavy squats, or any session with a lot of eccentric work, meaning the muscle is lengthening under load. The key idea is this: your nervous system controls the muscle, and both systems get stressed by exercise. When they're stressed in specific ways, you feel shaking, wobbling, or twitching. Moving to slide 3. The most common cause is plain muscle fatigue. When you train hard, your muscle fibers burn through energy and build up byproducts that make contraction less efficient. Studies show fatigue changes how calcium moves inside the muscle cell, and calcium is a key signal for contraction. When that signaling gets noisy, the muscle can fire in little bursts instead of smooth, controlled force. At the same time, your brain tries to compensate by recruiting extra motor units, basically calling in more fibers to keep the movement going. That compensation can feel like shaking or wobbling. After you stop, the system doesn't instantly reset, so you might sit down and still feel little pops in the calf, or you stand up and your legs feel unstable for a few minutes. This is especially common if you did sets near failure, sprint intervals, or long climbs where the muscle stayed under tension for a long time. Moving to slide 4. Now let's talk about the nerve side. Muscles don't twitch on their own. They twitch because the motor nerve is sending signals, or because the muscle membrane becomes easier to trigger. After intense exercise, the nervous system can become temporarily more excitable. One reason is that repeated firing changes the balance of ions, like sodium and potassium, around the nerve and muscle membranes. Another reason is stress and stimulants. Caffeine, pre-workout formulas, poor sleep, and high stress can all increase baseline readiness, which sounds good, but it can also mean more spontaneous firing after the session. This is why two people can do the same workout and only one twitches afterward. Their nervous systems are starting from different settings. If your twitching is brief and fades with recovery, it often fits this pattern. If it's widespread, persistent, or paired with other symptoms, that's when you take it more seriously. Moving to slide 5. Dehydration is another big driver, but it's not just about drink more water. When you sweat, you lose fluid and you lose electrolytes, especially sodium. If you replace only water, you can dilute sodium further, and that can affect nerve and muscle function. Even mild dehydration can increase perceived effort, so you fatigue earlier, and fatigue itself makes twitching more likely. Heat makes this worse, because you sweat more and your body diverts blood toward cooling. The result is less stable performance and more shaky legs, especially late in a run or after a hot gym session. A practical clue is timing. If twitching and jelly legs show up mainly after long, sweaty workouts or in warm conditions, hydration and sodium intake are worth looking at, not as a magic fix, but as one piece of the puzzle. Moving to slide 6. Electrolytes deserve their own quick explanation. Sodium helps maintain fluid balance and supports nerve signaling. Potassium and magnesium also play roles in muscle contraction and relaxation, but the most common exercise-related loss in sweat is sodium. So, if you're chasing cramps or twitching with only magnesium, you might miss the bigger lever. That said, magnesium deficiency can contribute to muscle irritability, especially if your overall diet is low in magnesium-rich foods. The goal isn't to megadose supplements, it's to notice whether your training volume, sweat rate, and diet are aligned. If you're a heavy sweater, train for long durations, or see salt stains on clothing, you may need more sodium around training. If your diet is inconsistent, you may also be low on potassium or magnesium. The point is balance. Nerves and muscles work best when the electrical environment is stable. Moving to slide 7. Low fuel is a sneaky cause of jelly legs. Your muscles run on stored carbohydrate called glycogen plus fat. High-intensity work depends heavily on glycogen. If you train hard while underfueled, your body can still finish the workout, but the nervous system has to work harder to produce the same force. That often feels like shaky reps, unstable knees, or legs that won't respond on the walk home. Low blood sugar can also make you feel weak, lightheaded, or a bit shaky overall, not just in one muscle. This is common with early morning training, long gaps between meals, aggressive dieting, or back-to-back sessions without enough carbs. You don't need a complicated plan. Just recognize that performance and stability are tied to available fuel. If jelly legs reliably happen when you train fasted or low carb, that's a strong clue. Moving to slide 8. Another common trigger is a sudden jump in intensity or volume. Your body adapts to what it repeatedly experiences. If you add sprint intervals, heavy negatives, or a long downhill run without building up, you create more microdamage and more nervous system demand than you're used to. That can show up as trembling legs right after and lingering twitching later that evening. Eccentric work is a big one. When the muscle lengthens under load, it creates more mechanical stress and often more soreness. Soreness itself doesn't cause twitching, but it's a sign the tissue was stressed. And when a muscle is stressed, the nervous system often guards it by changing recruitment patterns. That guarding can feel like weakness, even when the muscle is not injured. If your twitching started after a new program or a sudden ramp-up, the simplest answer may be you progressed too fast. Moving to slide 9. Let's add circulation and breathing to the picture. During hard exercise, blood flow is prioritized to working muscles and heat dissipation. When you stop, your blood pressure and blood return can shift quickly. Some people feel wobbly or weak for a minute because the system is rebalancing. Hyperventilation can add to this. If you breathe very fast, you can blow off too much carbon dioxide, which can change blood vessel tone and make you feel tingly, lightheaded, or shaky. This isn't dangerous in most healthy people, but it can be uncomfortable and confusing. A simple test is whether the weakness improves when you slow down, walk, and focus on steady breathing for a couple minutes. If yes, the cause may be more about system-wide regulation than a single muscle problem. It's still real fatigue, just with a strong cardiorespiratory component. Moving to slide 10. So what can you do right after a workout if your legs feel like jelly? First, downshift gradually. A short cool-down walk helps circulation normalize and reduces that sudden drop feeling. Second, rehydrate based on sweat. If the session was long or hot, include sodium, not just plain water. Third, get some carbs and protein in a normal meal window, especially after high intensity or long duration. Fourth, use gentle movement later, like an easy walk or light cycling, to keep blood moving without adding stress. For twitching specifically, don't chase it with aggressive stretching. Light mobility is fine, but hard stretching on a fatigued muscle can feel worse. And if you're using a lot of caffeine or stimulants, consider whether dialing that back reduces the after-workout buzzing. The goal is to bring the system back to steady, not to force it. Moving to slide 11. To prevent it next time, think in terms of inputs and load. On the input side, sleep is huge. Poor sleep increases perceived effort and can raise nervous system excitability. Nutrition matters too, especially consistent carbs if you train hard, and enough total calories if you're doing a lot of volume. Hydration planning matters most for long sessions, hot environments, and heavy sweaters. On the load side, progress gradually. Add intensity or volume in steps, not leaps, and respect eccentric work like downhill running and slow negatives. Also watch your warm-up. A rushed warm-up can make the first hard set feel like a shock, which often leads to early fatigue and shaky output. Finally, track patterns. If twitching happens only after certain sessions, you've got a map to the cause. Your body is giving feedback. Moving to slide 12. Now the important part. When is twitching or weakness not normal workout stuff? Get medical help sooner if you have weakness that is one-sided, worsening, or not improving over days. Also take it seriously if you have numbness, significant tingling, loss of coordination, or symptoms that spread beyond the trained muscles. Dark urine, severe muscle pain out of proportion, or swelling can be urgent red flags after extreme exercise. Chest pain, fainting, or severe shortness of breath are also not in the push-through-it category. For most people, post-exercise twitching is benign and fades with recovery. But persistent, unexplained symptoms deserve a proper evaluation because there are neurological, metabolic, and thyroid-related issues that can mimic simple fatigue. The goal isn't to worry. It's to be smart about patterns, severity, and duration. Your body can be tired and still be telling you something important. Moving to slide 13. Let's tie it all together with a simple checklist. If you get twitching after exercise, ask, did I spike intensity, train near failure, or do lots of eccentric work? Did I sweat heavily or train in heat? Did I undereat, go low carb, or train fasted? Was I short on sleep, stressed, or high on caffeine? If you can answer yes to one or two, you usually have your explanation. Then your next step is small and practical. Adjust one variable, not 5. Add a better cool down, or add sodium for long sweaty sessions, or fuel the workout, or reduce the jump in training load. Give it a week or two and watch the pattern. If jelly legs are frequent, it's often a sign your recovery budget is overdrawn. If twitching is isolated and brief, it's often just a tired system recalibrating. And if anything feels unusual or persistent, get checked. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more evidence-based training and recovery breakdowns. And comment with your experience. Do you get twitching more from cardio or from lifting? This information is not a substitute for medical advice. Live simply.